Open your search engine and type, "Why does my body?" Look at what the algorithm suggests. How does the body sense infidelity, and how does the body react to the right partner? These questions, which seem like esoterica, actually touch upon a deep truth. Many of the things we feel don't originate in our conscious space. They emerge from processes that we only become aware of afterward. Our body is a complex, ancient mechanism full of oddities, bugs, and surprising features. Today, we embark on a journey through this biological spacesuit. We will explore why we are built the way we are and not otherwise. Why do some people have a different number of bones? Why do we have seemingly useless muscles? And why did evolution, that great but blind designer, leave so many bizarre artifacts in our design? Part 1. The designer named evolution. Let's start with the basics. People are different. That's obvious. Height, weight, skin color. But this difference extends to our internal structure as well. For example, did you know that different people can have a different number of bones? In some people, the bones of the skull fuse differently than in most, creating extra sutures. From an anatomist's point of view, this is a separate bone. Functionally, there's no difference. Your brain is still protected, but the design is different. The same goes for muscles. Some of us have muscles that move our ears and some do not. This is a rudiment left over from ancestors for whom directing their ears toward a sound source was vital. For us, it's a useless artifact. Why does this happen? Because evolution is not an intelligent engineer. It is an aimless, blind process. It has no plan. There is no ladder of evolution with humans at the top. Evolution simply helps living beings adapt to their environment at a given moment in time. And its logic is simple. If a trait is important for survival and reproduction, it will be strictly controlled and will be roughly the same for everyone. For example, the size of the human heart varies by only about 10%. It's a critically important organ. But if a trait does not hinder the ability to leave offspring, evolution will not waste energy getting rid of it. It simply remains in the population as evolutionary junk. Moreover, many traits appear simply by chance, especially in small populations like those our ancestors lived in for hundreds of thousands of years. Even slightly harmful mutations could become fixed simply by chance. And finally, there is the most powerful, but also the stupidest force: sexual selection. It supports traits that for some reason appeal to the opposite sex even if they are harmful to survival. The classic example is the peacock's tail. It is a monstrous, inconvenient structure that makes the male conspicuous to predators. But for some reason, females prefer males with such tails. There are two hypotheses. Why? The first is the handicap principle. If a male survived, even with such a hideous tail, it means his other genes are so cool that it's worth reproducing with him. The second is the sexy son hypothesis. If you choose a male with a beautiful tail, your sons will also have beautiful tails and will be more likely to appeal to females. So, our body is not a single thought-out scheme. It is a compromise between what is needed for survival, what is needed for reproduction, and what is left over by chance. It is a tangle of competing and contradictory processes.
Part 2. Bugs and artifacts. This imperfection in design gives rise to amazing bugs. A classic example is the recurrent laryngeal nerve in the giraffe. This nerve runs from the brain to the larynx, but instead of taking a direct path, it makes a detour, looping around the aorta near the heart. In fish, our distant ancestors, this was a short and logical path. But as evolution progressed and necks appeared, this nerve got caught on a blood vessel and stretched. In a giraffe, it makes a loop several meters long, an absolutely senseless and inefficient design. But it didn't hinder survival, so it remained. And why do we have paired organs? 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, 2 eyes. It seems obvious. It's for backup. If one eye stops working, the other remains. But this is not always the case. Pairing often arises simply due to the bilateral symmetry laid down in the early stages of development. And only then does evolution find a use for it. For example, we need two eyes not for backup, but for stereoscopic vision. Only with two eyes can we accurately determine the distance to objects. This was critically important for our primate ancestors to jump from branch to branch. If you close one eye, you will most likely miss when trying to reach for an object. But we have one heart and one brain. Although the heart was also initially symmetrical, over time its halves took on different functions, and one of the aortic arches in our ancestors simply disappeared. This asymmetry and specialization proved to be more advantageous. What about hair? Why does it grow in our armpits? It's already warm there. That's precisely why it grows there. A warm and moist place is an ideal environment for spreading scent. Hair is a sponge that accumulates and disseminates the smell of sweat, which is a powerful source of information for other individuals. Mammals rely heavily on the scent of a partner. There have even been studies showing that the smell of sweat can distinguish when a person is lying versus when they are just scared. We use this trait to choose a partner without even realizing it. So when we use deodorants, we are essentially hacking an ancient system of sexual selection.
Part 3. Invisible processes and brain predictions. Our body is full of processes we are not aware of. For example, goosebumps. This is a rudimentary mechanism. In our hairy ancestors, a muscle attached to each hair would raise the fur, making the animal appear larger and scarier to an opponent, or to create an air layer and keep warm. We have almost no fur, but the mechanism remains. And for some reason, it is triggered by strong emotions, such as for music. Why? Scientists still don't know. What about gray hair? This is the result of oxidative stress in the hair follicles. The proteins responsible for color break down and begin to scatter light instead of absorbing it. Is there any meaning to this? Perhaps it's a marker of age, which is important in hierarchical societies. Or perhaps there is no meaning at all, just a side effect of aging and stress. But the most important invisible process happens in our head. Our body glows in the dark, literally. The intensity of this light is 1,000 times lower than the sensitivity of our eye, but it exists. These are photons that are released as a result of energy metabolism. It is simply a basic property of the matter we are made of. And here we come to the main paradox. Our brain, the most powerful organ, is constantly deceiving us. We all have a blind spot in our eye, the place where the optic nerve attaches to the retina. There are no light-sensitive cells at this point. We physically do not see a part of the picture, but we don't notice it. Why? Because our brain fills in the missing fragment, creating a seamless, predictable reality for us. The word predictable is key here. The brain does not analyze all incoming information. That would be infinitely expensive in terms of energy. Instead, it builds a model of reality and constantly compares it with incoming signals. If the signals match the model, it ignores them. If they don't, it updates the model. We don't see the world, we see the difference between our prediction and reality. This is the fundamental principle of our perception. When a baseball player hits a ball, he doesn't have time to process the signal about its location. He predicts the trajectory and initiates the movement in advance. All our movements and all our perception are based on this predictive coding. Conclusion: acknowledging errors. And this extends to the level of consciousness. We live in the captivity of our own models of the world. We look for signals that confirm them and discard those that contradict them. Those we call open to new things are simply people who have learned not to discard signals that contradict their model. They are willing to admit that they may be wrong. And in this, perhaps,
lies the main, most philosophical lesson we can learn from studying the oddities of our body. The effectiveness of our life is based on our brain's ability to admit its mistakes. Fundamentally, at the molecular level, we are always wrong. We are always making only an approximate prediction, and our ability to correct it, to update our model of reality in the face of new data, is what we call learning, growth, and perhaps even wisdom.